The silence in that Manhattan restaurant was so thick, you could almost taste it. People stopped mid-sentence, forks frozen, eyes snapping toward the corner where, out of nowhere, a kid in leg braces was reaching for the hand of the only black waitress in the place. 10-year-old Lucas Montgomery, hands shaking, standing there like he was about to face a firing squad, and Diana Johnson, apron on, balancing a tray, suddenly in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. That's when the manager, Thornton, cut through the tension with a voice so sharp it could have sliced marble. "Sir, control your son. This isn't a dance hall. Our staff aren't here to entertain." I bet you've never seen a billionaire at a loss for words, but Richard Montgomery Lucas's dad just sat there, jaw tight, probably regretting ever bringing his son out in public since that car accident 2 years back. You could feel him weighing his next move, every eye in the room just waiting. Lucas's hand hung in the air, hope flickering across his face and then starting to fade. That's when Diana did something nobody expected. She set her tray down, peeled off her apron with the kind of calm that dared you to challenge her, and smiled at Lucas. "I can't dance in an apron," she said, and just like that, the kid lit up. Richard shot up, half demanding, "What do you think you're doing?" Diana didn't flinch. "I'm accepting an invitation, sir." Then Lucas, bracing himself, took the first shaky step metal, scraping the floor loud enough to make you wince. Diana matched his slow pace, not guiding, not correcting, just following his lead. I heard a woman whisper, "She's getting fired tomorrow." Richard just stared, stuck between fury and something softer, maybe a memory. His late wife, Elizabeth, dancing with Lucas in their living room, telling him it wasn't about perfect steps, but about connection. Around them, the restaurant waited to see how the powerful man would react. The manager promised proper discipline. Staff pretended to work. Patrons stared. But the only thing echoing in Richard's mind was the joy on Lucas's face as Diana let him take charge for once. After a few steps, Diana led Lucas back to the table, bowing like it was the end of a formal waltz. "Thank you for asking me, sir. It was an honor." She turned to leave, but Richard stopped her. "Wait, what's your full name?" She told him Diana Johnson. He handed her his card. "My office. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. You could feel everyone holding their breath as she took it, calm, but hands shaking just enough to betray what it meant. Later, Lucas broke the awkward silence, asking, "Dad, why did you do that?" The question hit harder than any accusation. For a moment, Richard saw his son not as a problem, not as a burden, but as a whole person he'd been ignoring for years. Next morning, Diana found herself in the mirrored lobby of Montgomery Tower, feeling like a tourist in her own city. She told the receptionist, "Got a look," got sent up. Miss Winters, all sharp edges and polite judgment, led her past glass walls and silent stares. "He had you fired, right?" Winters said, almost like it was routine. "People like you, well, you know what I mean. Staff who don't know their place." Diana just raised an eyebrow. And where exactly would that be? In the office, Richard started with small talk meant to unsettle her. "Your background?" "Education." She shot back, steady as ever. NYU undergrad, unfinished master's, 3 jobs. He opened a folder, sliding out photos of the dance program she'd co-founded. Freedom Steps now, on the brink of shutting down for lack of funding. She didn't flinch, told him straight, "I'm not here to ask for money. You invited me." He offered her a job not as a waitress, but as a therapeutic companion for Lucas. "I have the best specialists, but you did something none of them could. You followed, you didn't lead." Diana saw through him, saw the desperate father hiding behind the billionaire. She refused, calmly but firmly. "I don't work for people who see only my color or my class. And I definitely don't work for those who think money can buy everything. Your son deserves someone who cares, not someone who's paid to pretend." Before leaving, she handed him a card. "Freedom Steps, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4. First class is free if you want to bring Lucas." On her way out, Winters called her crazy for turning down Richard Montgomery. Diana just smiled. "Maybe, but I'd rather be crazy than be property." A week later, Diana's sister Zoe spotted a Bentley outside their Bronx community center. "He's not coming in," Zoe whispered. But Lucas did, and against all predictions, so did Richard, dressed down but standing out all the same. Don't underestimate the power of a determined son, Diana told her sister, watching as Lucas looked around in awe and Richard hovered by the door, uncomfortable and out of his element. Inside, the kids were everywhere, wheelchairs spinning, prosthetic legs dancing, everyone moving to their own rhythm. It looks chaotic, Richard muttered. There's structure, Diana replied. Just not the kind you're used to. Lucas jumped right in, but only after his father gave a stiff nod. Richard ended up sitting next to Zoe, who explained that the first day is always the hardest for parents, not kids. He tried to justify his choices, listing specialists and therapists. Zoe just asked, "And how's that been working for Lucas?" Before Richard could answer, in walked Dr. Mercer, gray hair, cane, presence like a thunderstorm. "You've rejected my proposals 3 times, she said to Richard. Turns out, this wasn't just a dance class, it was a research program, and Diana was her co-author, not just a waitress. Suddenly, reporters appeared. "You used my son for PR?" Richard hissed. Diana led him to a wall covered in photos, stats, and one empty frame. "That's for the future, what we could build if we had support." When Lucas managed his first unsupported step in the middle of the chaos, kids cheered, cameras flashed, and Richard Montgomery, always in control, found himself at crossroads. He could walk out and look like the villain, or he could accept the lesson right in front of him. The room waited. Then, for the first time, Richard addressed the press with honesty. "The Montgomery Foundation will fully fund Freedom Steps for the next 5 years, son, the condition that Ms. Johnson runs it her way, no interference." Flashbulbs popped. Diana stared, barely daring to believe it. Months later, as bulldozers broke ground for the new center, Diana and Richard often found themselves working side by side, Lucas always nearby. Kids coming and going, a new rhythm settling into their lives. Richard asked, "Why never accept my apology?" Diana said simply, "Because you never gave one. You made amends. That's not the same." At the opening ceremony, Lucas led a dance with other kids, moving with confidence nobody had expected. Richard watched quietly, admitting, "He doesn't need me to hold him up anymore." Diana nodded, "But he still needs you to be around. That's the difference." Reporters circled again, asking Richard what he'd learned. He answered for real this time, that true leaders know when to follow, not just when to lead. A year later, Freedom Steps had expanded to 3 cities. Diana won national recognition, and Lucas became an inspiration, walking taller every day. Richard finally understood the real power isn't in control, but in letting go, trusting others, and following when it matters most. So, what do you think? Folks, when does dignity matter more than dollars? Is real change even possible between people with so little in common? Share your take below, because sometimes all it takes to change everything is one person bold enough to follow a child's lead and another brave enough to let them.